Good morning from United States and welcome. This is talk number 4 of the uh, coins of the Gupta Dynasty. I am sure some of you may have looked at the prior talks, listened to the prior talks. This one will pick up where we left off on talk number 3. And just to recap, in the talks 1 and 2, I talked about general designs, evolution of designs of goddess Lakshmi, and how that evolved. Talk number 3 was starting with the different coin types of the Gupta dynasty. And the first coin we discussed was the king and queen on couch type. This was issued by Chandragupta I. The second coin type we discussed was the king and queen on couch type. I'm sorry, king on couch type, which is the second coin shown here. The next we discussed the king and queen type, which is the third coin type shown here. Then we went to the Rajdanda type, where the king was holding a scepter, a Rajdanda in his hand. And then finally we discussed in the last talk the archetype. Of course, in the archetype, we have additional designs, many different designs where the king is facing to the right, to the left. The king is holding the bow inside, facing the bow outside. Sometimes in his hand, he has an arrow. Sometimes in his right hand, he's putting oblations onto a havan, a fire. So there are different types here, issued by different kings through the Gupta dynasty. The archetype was one of the most common types found in the largest numbers even today. So starting this talk for today, we're going to quickly do a little overview of where we get the information on the existence of these kings. As historians, the information basically comes to us from the inscriptions. So this is a electrolyte copy of a seal of King Kumaragupta III. This was found in Bhitri in Ghazipur district in Uttar Pradesh in 1886. It is a copper royal seal of Kumaragupta III, and it lists the genealogy. Now, the reason this is important is, as numismatists, we can make assumptions on who issued a coin, which coins were issued, in what sequence. But when we find such seals and inscriptions, this gives us the data, the information, based on what the kings of that time were trying to tell us. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that these inscriptions are 100% accurate. These inscriptions were made based on what the king at that time wanted the population to know. Just because an inscription is there does not necessarily mean that is exactly what happened. Yet at the same time, it is a good indication of what it is that the king at that time was trying to tell us. So the reason I mention this is this Bhitri seal, which lists the genealogy, lists that I am Kumaragupta. My father was Narasimhagupta. His father was Purugupta. His father was Shri Kumaragupta. And his father was Chandragupta. And then I'm the grandson of so-and-so, great-great-grandson. So this is what the seal lists, right? The seal lists here, this is, Shri Samudragupta, who was the exterminator of all kings without blah, blah, blah. So this is important. The reason I bring this up is, if you look on the seal does not mention Ramgupta or Kachgupta. It does not even mention the name of King Skandagupta. Now we know Skandagupta was a very important king from his Junagadh rock inscription. And he was there on the scene for at least 19, 20 years. But he was eliminated from this royal genealogy. Why? Right? So that's a question that comes up. Why? Now, we hardly find any reference to Purugupta, who was a son of Kumaragupta I and lasted maybe only 2 to 3 years, because most probably Skandgupta took the reign and he did not get a chance to rule. So when we look at these inscriptions and then we try to correlate them with the coins and the information that we find on the coins, many times we find contradictions. For example, I mentioned in one of my prior talks that Ramgupta was totally eliminated from the royal genealogy. Why? Because he was killed and Chandragupta II became the king. Now, once he became the king, the last thing a king wants to say is, I killed my older brother to become king, so it's a shameful act. So, of course, they did not want to advertise that. And therefore, he was eliminated from that. And similarly, we have the elimination of Skandgupta's name from this seal. We have, of course, on this seal, we also don't have any reference of a later king called Chandragupta, which numismatists refer to him as Chandragupta III, could be a Chandragupta IV. So there's no reference to a later Chandragupta on this kind of a genealogy or any inscription we have found so far. Okay, moving on to the coin types. We discussed up to the archer type, and now we will start moving on to the battle axe type. So the battle axe type was issued only by King Samudragupta, and this was issued during the early phase of his reign, when he was in the conquest mode, when he was in the militaristic phase of his reign, trying to capture the territory and expand his empire. So here on this, we find very important elements. We see, of course, the king is holding a battle axe. We are shown here that there is a small person standing behind the king, and he's holding a Bala Chandra Dhwaj, a Shaivite symbol. Now, of course, remember, Gupta kings always called themselves as Param Bhagwat, a Vaishnavite title. But here he's holding a Shaivite symbol. So this is important to understand that back in those days, 4th, 5th century AD, the kings were equally open to all forms of worship. Here, another coin of this classic style, which is very similar to the style that you see here in the book, right? Same style, the little short dress here, very, very classic style. So this again is another example of a same craftsman making coins of the similar style in different types. So this was, of course, the javelin type, which we talked in one of our earlier talks, where he's holding a javelin, you see. Of course, this is the book that all of these talks are based on. So here he's the battle axe type. In the back, very important, one of the earlier talks we talked about how we could see the goddess Lakshmi, her design evolving. She starts off with holding a cornucopia, ends up holding a lotus, her feet, the lotus starts evolving underneath her feet, etc. Right? Okay. Here on the back, in the reverse, we see in Brahmi, Kritanta Parusha, which means the exterminator of all kings. So the exterminator of all kings is something that was also in the Allahabad pillar inscription. The Allahabad pillar inscription refers to Samudragupta as Kritanta Parusha, the exterminator of all kings. basically a message on the coins saying that I am ready to expand my empire. If you are going to stand in my way, prepare to die, because I am the exterminator of all kings that stand in my way. All right, moving along, we come to the javelin type. Now, javelin type is again another coin issued during his militaristic phase, a time when he was expanding his empire. Now, the reason I chose this specific coin for the cover of my book was because I wanted everybody to understand how beautiful their design skills were. You can actually see a little finger right here. You can see the fire flames. You can see the Garud Dwaj. You can see the spear, the javelin in his hand. You can see a crescent on his head, a little jewel at the top of his shoe right here. You see that? So this specific coin design was at the height of their art. And that is why it's important for everybody to understand that a design of a coin can be very different and yet be a Gupta issue. And the reason I mention that is if you look at this coin here, this is a javelin type of Samudragupta. And by the way, javelin type coins were only issued by Samudragupta I. And the reason I say Samudragupta I is because there was later we find a coin issued by another Samudragupta a few hundred years later, 100 some years later. It was, we call him Samudragupta II. Now this coin, you see, this is a very typical style of what we see in javelin coins. This design of the king, the design of the style of the dress. But this is another coin right here, very crude styling, also a javelin type, right? And here is a refined style. So we can assume that this is a coin that was made by craftsmen. The die of this coin was designed by the best of the best craftsmen, most probably working at a royal mint, right? So a royal mint coin will have a die made by probably the best quality die designers, the craftsmen, right? The highest paid ones. They would be, of course, working at the royal mint. So this coin of King Samudragupta, under his arm, left arm, it says Samudra in Brahmi, Samudragupta. He's shown with a halo. Garud is standing with his eyes. You can see a kuda on top, So this is a beautiful style. On the back of it, it says Parakrama, all powerful, right? Parakrama. So here is the javelin type issued only by King Samudragupta. And of course, on the obverse, on mostly all Gupta coins, there is always a legend. Sometimes it starts from here, sometimes it starts from here, goes around, sometimes it starts from here and goes around. So this specific legend, this obverse legend written in Brahmi script and Sanskrit language, basically is talking about how he is in his militaristic phase. It says, the invincible king who had won victories on 100 battlefields and conquered the enemies wins the heavens. And he's shown here, of course, doing the worship. Right? Okay. Moving on to the next one. This is another coin type issued first by Samudragupta and then later by Kumaragupta. Now, we do not find any, or we so far, we have not found any Ashvamedha coins issued by any other king in gold, other than Samudragupta I and Kumaragupta I. Now, in the Allahabad pillar inscription, there is no reference of Samudragupta doing any Ashvamedha horse sacrifice. But the Pune copperplate inscriptions from the daughter of Chandragupta II Prabhavati Gupta. She married the Vakataka king and became the queen there. And she refers to, in the Pune copper plate inscription that is issued by her, she refers to her grandfather, who was King Samudragupta, as Anek Aswamedha Jina, as the performer of many horse sacrifices, many, more than one, and definitely more than one and two. The reason we can say that, because in these gold coins of the Aswamedha type, we find many, many die varieties. We find many, many coins. However, when we look at the Aswamedha coins issued by King Kumaragupta I, we find very few coins. And it's assumed that he only did 2 Aswamedha sacrifices. Now, in this coin, it's very important. There is the design is, of course, a yupa. King is the horse is standing facing that on a pedestal sometimes. In the back, we see the queen. She's got the chauri on her shoulder. There is a spear in front of her, and Aswamedha Parikrama. That's Parakrama. That's what it says back here, right? So this is called, whenever we see a horse standing in front of a upa, that's called the Aswamedha type. Now, what is the Aswamedha type? Aswamedha type was a sacrifice that was done. Aswamedha was a sacrifice that was done in preparation for by the king aspiring to increase his empire. It is a very intricate worship, sacrifice that is detailed with very graphic details in the book. For a reader today, reading the details of that sacrifice may find it extremely disturbing, what they did to the horse, or what the queen did to the horse. But I won't get into those details right now. It can be, if you want, you can refer to it in the book. But it was a very intricate sacrifice. They believed in it, and it was done. It was done by Samudragupta and, of course, Kumaragupta I also. Moving on, there is the next type issued by Samudragupta. It was called the Lyris type. The Lyris type shows the king playing the veena. Right here in his hand, you can see he's holding a veena. His hand is actually resting on a pillow. His left hand, his right hand is actually playing the strings. You can actually see the little strings down here on this coin. There are two types of, two versions of this Lyris type. One is a broad flan, matlab it is a very broad piece of gold, 22 millimeters, and the other one is about 19 millimeters and much smaller in size. On this coin, Lyris type, it's very important to note that the king is always shown as an older man. See, he's a middle-aged or an older man. We never see a Lyris type coin where the king is shown as a young man. Here, see, he's a young man. He's shown as a young man ready for battle. He is always shown as an older person here, because by the time this coin was issued, the lands had been conquered, the empire had been expanded, and now peace reigned, and he was able to then enjoy the arts, right? So that is where we see in Lyris coins a slightly different way how the king is personified. And around the legend that goes around, starting from here, it says Maharaja Dhiraja Shri Samudragupta, right? You see the Upta Samudragupta right here, right? Same legend back here, Maharaja Dhiraja Raja Sri Samudragupta. On the back, on the reverse, also it says Samudragupta. Ta, with the two dots, Ta, Samudragupta. And under the seat, right here, under the couch, there is a C for Siddham. Okay, this is what we always see on these coins. On this coin, on the version A, variety A, we don't see a tamga. This tamga is never found on the variety A, the large flan type. Or here, a tamga is found on the variety B. So this is what we see as a lyris type. And I'm going to, I forgot to put variety A here, so I'll update that. So we have that. Okay, moving on. This is another type issued by Samudragupta I. It was started by Samudragupta I and then also struck by Kumaragupta I. Now, again, on this type, the king is always shown as a young man. He's hunting a tiger. You can see the tiger falling backwards, his front paws raised, his mouth open. He's got a bow. He's pulling the string, right? He's shown with the halo. And then what is this in front? Again, a Bala Chandradhwaj, right? Again, a Shaivite symbol, Bala Chandradhwaj, right? And goddess Ganga standing on a makar, holding a lotus flower. And then in the back, it says Raja Samudragupta. Okay, so this is the tiger slayer type, tiger slayer by King Samudragupta. And then we find the same coin type also issued by King Kumaragupta. King Kumaragupta, same thing. He's shooting, slightly different style, right? Of course, this is a different time. I was showing you here that Chandragupta I had a reign for 24 years. Then came Samudragupta. Then came Chandragupta II. Then came Kumaragupta. So from Samudragupta to Samudragupta early, if the tiger type was struck in the early time of Samudragupta, to the Kumaragupta, we are talking about 50 odd years at least have passed, and the craftsman style has changed. And the style is slightly now little different. You see, the king is shown slightly muscular, slightly different. There is a crown they both have on their head. The queen here, the goddess Ganga, she's shown feeding grapes to a peacock. She's still standing on a makar, right? She still has a lotus stalk that we can see coming up here. And this is another coin. And the reason I put this image is because here we can see the Balachandran-Dhwaj, the crescent standard right here. The tiger falling very clearly, right? Okay, so this is the tiger type. Now, I mentioned the main inscription of Kumaragupta I talks about that he had installed a Shaivite shrine. And the Shaivite shrine is also, the fact that he was a worshipper of Shiva also, while being a Vaishnavite, his coins, archer type coins, show a Garuda Dhwaj on it. The official symbol of the Gupta dynasty was a Garud. So the concept of having a Shaivite symbol also, it's important to study so people can understand that there was this also very prominently seen on Gupta coins and art. So here I put two maps to show you where the, this is the Indo-Gangetic plain right here. Sorry, I should put this here. Indo-Gangetic plain right here. This is the range of the tiger. And this is also coincides very much with the region that was under Kumaragupta and Samudragupta and Kumaragupta. And this is where of course, the tiger type coins are found right around here in this area. This is where we find the tiger type coins, right? So, of course, if they are conquering this region, they're going to run into the tiger. It's a good sport for them. The kings considered it a good sport, and they were very happy to proclaim that they were very powerful and very strong, and they were able to, kill the tigers. Next, we talk about the coins issued by Ramgupta, and we talked about Ramgupta in one of the earlier talks. And these are, we only find copper coins issued by Ramgupta. We don't find any gold coins with the name Ramgupta. And of course, we know Ramgupta was a king during the in the Vidisha region, in the Ujjain region, because we found these statues with the inscription referring to him as Maharaj Dhiraj Raja Sri Ramagupta. And then, of course, we have the different types of the copper coins. I will come back to the copper coins in a different talk in more detail. Copper and base metal coins of different kings, because that is by itself can take a couple of hours of discussion. So there is another type of dhwaj being held by a king. It's called the chakra dhwaj. The chakra is right here. The king is holding it. Now, this is a coin type issued by a king that called himself Kachgupta, right? Kachgupta is a, there is a whole discussion on one of the earlier talks how, Ramgupta, connection with Ramgupta and Kachgupta. These are two different styles of the chakra dhwaj type. One has the Garud dhwaj on it in addition to the chakra dhwaj, and the other one just has a chakra dhwaj, no Garud dhwaj. And the assumption here is this king was issuing the chakra dhwaj coin prior to taking the Gupta throne. And then once he took the Gupta throne, the royal mint, because this is a royal mint style, issued the coin with the Garud dhwaj on it, signifying that he is now, of course, in full control of the Gupta Empire. In the back, of course, we have here a basic goddess holding a flower, but here it's a better personification of that goddess, showing her as possibly Lakshmi holding a lotus flower. All right. And this has been covered in detail on one of the prior talks, so I'll move on to the next type, which is the Chakra Vikrama type. Now, Chakra Vikrama type is considered as the most rarest of the coins issued by any of the Gupta kings. There's only, few pieces, 2-3 pieces known to exist. And this coin at one time was in my hands. I've seen it, I have inspected it, and it is a beautiful coin. The two coins that we know of are both in very poor condition. Now, we don't know the reason why these two coins are in such poor, worn condition, but they show the king with these, the rays around him as a Chakra Vikrama king, one who has derived his valor or invincibility from Chakra or Chakra Purush himself. It's a very unique style, and we assume, and the key word is assume, we assume this coin was issued by Chandragupta II. Now, Chandragupta II is, why was this said issued by Chandragupta II? Because it says Shri Vikrama on the back, Chakra Vikrama right here, Chakra Vikrama, which is very similar to the Birud that we talked about in the past. Many kings have issued Shri Vikrama. But the numismatists and historians in the past, scholars in the past, have attributed this coin to Chandragupta II. I had my doubts when I wrote the book whether this is a coin issued by Chandragupta I, who also used Shri Vikrama, or Chandragupta II. And there were many reasons. One of the reasons was that this weight, 7.56, points to a earlier issue, meaning कि इसका जो कम weight है, जो 7.56 ग्राम का weight है, ये mostly Chandragupta I time में strike हुआ होगा. But this coin is worn. Now, जितना worn है, could it go down? कितना कम होगा? Maybe 7.6, maybe 7.7, right? But this is also a very crude style. अगर आप इसका देखें, जो डिजाइन करा हुआ है, बड़ा crude style है, बड़ा odd style है. You know, this even the way this king is shown, this person is shown. So this makes me think that this was originally being designed when the Gupta coinage was first starting out. But when I looked at the coins that we know for fact are issued by Chandragupta II, we find another coin, and I'll blow this up and you'll see. This is a Chhatra type issued by Chandragupta II. Now we know for a fact this is Chandragupta II, all right? And this is a very similar representation of the lady in the back on the reverse. You see, the style shows me that it was very similar. So if this is a style very similar struck by Chandragupta II during Chandragupta's II time by the mints, it's quite possible that the same design craftsman who designed this reverse possibly also designed this reverse, because this is very similar. So based on that, I was, you know, in the book, I listed this also as a coin of Chandragupta II. Again, I did not have the piece to do the XRF analysis on it to see its metal content, how much gold is in it, how much silver, how much copper, as that kind of analysis, XRF analysis, will give us more clues as to when it was possibly struck. And if you have not downloaded the chapter on metrology, which talks about the metal content of the Gupta coins, this big study that I did for the book, it is available online for free under academia.edu website. So please feel free to download that. That'll help you also understand a lot about the Gupta gold coins. All right, moving along. So we were talking about how this design matched the reverse of the Chhatra style. The Chhatra style is right here, issued by King Chandragupta II, right? And we'll go straight into the Chhatra style here. Chhatra style was struck by not just Chandragupta II, but also by King Kumaragupta I. And here we find many, many different styles, many different designs of the obverse, and in the reverse, sometimes the goddess is shown facing forward, sometimes she's shown walking to the left, sometimes she's shown standing on a pedestal. So this is called the Chhatra style because there is always an attendant standing behind the king holding a Chhatra, right? And it is assumed that he is here, at least in this scene, he's got a he's got his scepter right here. He's got the possibly a sword. This is most probably a sword. He is putting oblations into the fire havan, and looks like he's getting ready for battle. Here he is, holding the sword in his hand, and beautiful style, beautiful style. So what do we know here? We know that Chandragupta II was also very involved in conquering the Kshatrapas, the Western Kshatrapa kings that had control over the Gujarat, the Malwa, the Saurashtra region. So that region, which is right here, was under the Kshatrapa rule. So during the reign of Samudragupta, Samudragupta did conquer most of the Gupta from east to west, but he didn't get control of the Kshatrapas. The Kshatrapas were conquered. The start of the conquest of the Kshatrapas, Western Kshatrapas, started under Chandragupta II and then ended finally under Kumaragupta I. And we can see that because we have copper, lead, copper, and silver coins, which show us the transition of the and the start of the conquest of the Kshatrapas. When Chandragupta II finally started the conquest and got some of the Kshatrapa lands under his control, he issued silver coins and lead coins, which showed some Kshatrapa style designs on it, as well as the Garud, as well as his name, the king's name on it, Chandragupta II, Vikramaditya, etc. So Shri Vikrama. So we can document it that way, and I'll talk about that a little later on down the road, so you can see how that happened. But just to give you a little example, let's see. I think I had one slide here. See how I had said, have you ever been in love? That is because, if you enjoy the coins and start studying them, you will fall in love too. And this is a lead coin that was issued by Chandragupta II. As soon as he got a little bit of the control of the Kshatrapa region. And here, some very important things. One, on the front, it's got a Garud, a flying outstretched wing. So that is their Gupta Empire's official symbol. This is the three-arch hills, which was always used by Kshatrapa mints on the Kshatrapa coins. So we know this is a coin in lead issued by the Kshatrapa mints, right? And then underneath here, it's not very clear on this image, but we can see Varshe 81, which is 400 AD. So this proves to us that Chandragupta II by 400 AD had already started the assault on the Kshatrapa region and had captured some of the territories, enough of a territory to actually have this coin being issued. All right. So moving on, we will come to the Chhatra coins of Chandragupta II. So these Chhatra coins come in two classes. We have the class 1 right here. Let's see here. Two different legends, right? One says having conquered the earth, Vikramaditya wins the heavens by his meritorious deeds, which is right here. And the other one just says Maharaja Dhiraj Raja Sri Chandragupta, King of Kings, His Majesty Chandragupta II. Okay, and on the back, each of these coins has Sri Vikramaditya. Oh, sorry, just Vikramaditya, not Sri Vikramaditya. Vikramaditya, right? No Sri. All right. So this coin, those of you that have traveled to Delhi airport will recognize this coin. This is in the National Museum, Delhi, but it's also right here. It is in the National Museum as a big decal on the wall, big sculpture on the wall. And this is, of course, me from many years back when when I went there for the grand opening of the National Museum. This was one of the coins that I was fortunate enough to be there for the opening, and this is, of course, a Chandragupta II coin issued by the for the Chhatra type. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. A couple people are trying to call me. Sorry, I cannot take any calls at this point, even though I know you want to talk to me and ask me questions. Please type your questions in and I'll be more than happy to answer them. All right. So Chhatra type issued also by Chandragupta I, Chandragupta II, and then Kumaragupta. And then we found a coin also by Skandgupta and with the chhatra on it. So it was very clear that these were popular coin types issued by kings after Chandragupta II. But you can see the style is changing, right? We're seeing this is a very Kushan type style, goes to a very Indian style type, and this is issued by the Royal Mint. And then as over next 40-50 years, we can see it is starting to change. This is showing an older monarch, older king. Of course, by the time Skandagupta came to power, he was quite old. He was not a young man. So here we are seeing Kumaragupta and Skandagupta coins, and very important to understand, because Skandagupta, when he struck these coins, he was completely in control of the Gupta Empire, and this is definitely struck much later in his reign, right? Okay. This is a coin that has recently come to light. This is a coin struck by Kumaragupta, and it's got a peacock here. He's feeding a peacock. Here we don't know what it is. Over here it could be a fire altar, right? But here we can clearly see it's a peacock, and the goddess is standing to the front. Now remember, under Chandragupta II, we saw three styles of the goddess: to the front, walking, and on a pedestal. In Kumaragupta, we see her walking, now to the front, and I wouldn't be surprised if down the road we find a goddess on a pedestal reverse for a Kumaragupta coin. All right, okay. Now we go to the horseman type. Now the horseman type was struck by Chandragupta II, and not by Samudragupta prior to him. It was started by Chandragupta II, and shows many different styles. It shows king riding to the left, king riding to the right. Sometimes the goddess is seated on a moda. Sometimes she is seated on a moda, with both feet facing forward, and sometimes she's standing. So there are different varieties and types in it, different classes and types in it. But this type is called the horseman type. King is always riding a horse. Sometimes he has a weapon in his hand, some like this. This is a bow. Sometimes he doesn't. There's no weapon shown here, right? There's a weapon, a bow, you can be seen. So this is called the horseman type. Now the horseman type was also issued by Kumaragupta. And this is, find many coins of the horseman type issued by Kumaragupta. It was actually one of the more common types issued by him. And here we see the goddess is seated on a moda, on a wicker stool, and she's feeding grapes to a peacock, right? On the Chandragupta II coins, she's holding a pasha in her hand. She's holding this like a beaded mala in her hand. She's holding, there's no peacock on the Chandragupta II coins, of course. In her left hand, she's always got a lotus stalk, right? On the Kumaragupta coins, you see here, this is Bija Kosha, right? Possibly, right? And we've got flower shown here, and the goddess is seated, but she does not have a pasha in her hand. The king can be shown to the right, to the left, and mostly always with a weapon, right? This is the Kumaragupta horseman type. Now, in the horseman type, after Kumaragupta, we did find coins which are struck by Skandagupta. Very rare coins. This one of them, this one right here, is from the Ashmolean Museum, and we know it is Skandagupta because we can see this Nidhi symbol right here with the pearls flowing out of it, which is a characteristic design that we find on his archer type also, right? And this coin was found, we're not quite sure whether this is Skandagupta. We think it is Skandagupta because it says Kramaditya Ajita, right? So Kramaditya was, of course, Skandagupta's Barud, but we are assuming this is Skandagupta. It could possibly be a Ghatotkach Gupta horseman type. We're not quite 100% sure, but mostly we think it's Skandagupta. And this is weight-wise also, it fits 8.36 grams, similar to the one piece that we know that's in the Ashmolean Museum. So this is a horseman type of, we are classifying it right now, and also in the book as Skandagupta. This is the Nidhi symbol that I was talking to you about of the coins, archer type coins of Skandagupta. Here it says Skanda, right? And this is the Nidhi goddess, and the same Nidhi is the one that we see right here, right? This is the same Nidhi. So we know this helps us then quickly identify and say, okay, this most probably this coin is Skandagupta. Let's study this a little bit more, read the Barud, try to read the obverse legend, and then we can finally confirm it. That's the process most people will take to identify a coin. Next, we come to Chandragupta II, lion slayer type. Now, what is the lion slayer? So the lion, remember in India, a lion is found in the western regions, the Gir forest, right? Where is the Gir forest? Gir forest is where the western Kshatrapas were, right? Right here. So this region was under the control of western Kshatrapas. And it's only under Chandragupta II's reign that this area was conquered. So once this area was conquered, that is when we assume that this lion type was issued, lion slayer type. Now, lion slayer type, we can see the different types available. The three different types, right? So there is the lion slayer type where we see the king is being shot with a bow, one that he's being shot with a sword, and then another one where he's being shot with killed with a javelin. So the javelin right here, this one where he's got a javelin and he's a spear and he's trying to kill a lion here, javelin, he's trying to kill a lion here. So these are two coins, only two known pieces of the javelin type trying to kill a lion. So the lion slayer type. The other type is known as the swordsman type. The king is holding a sword in his hand. Again, the goddess is seated on lion and she's holding a lotus in her hand, right? Okay. Now, if you see here, you'll see this is also a lion slayer type. And the reverse shows this throne, the outlines of a throne. In the top one and top two, I talked about the thought process, whether some of these coins that show the throne, if they are issued by Chandragupta II or Chandragupta I, scholars even today are continuing to debate whether these coins with the throne were actually struck by a earlier king or not. So rather than having that discussion today I just want to show you that we have the lion slayer type where the king is shown with a bow and arrow shooting a lion, right? This is killing a lion, and this is called the lion slayer type. So lion slayer type has the bow and arrow style, the spear style, and with the sword, right? Okay. Now, if you will see, there is, let me just come down here. We also have many different obverse dies of the lion slayer type, where the king is shown slaying the lion, right? And of course, in the back, we see the goddess seated on a lion, different stylings of the lion. And then in the lion slayer type, we also find coins issued by Chandragupta, right? Right here, we have lion slayer type. And if you come here, you see a few fake dies. Now, the fake dies are very different. You can see they're styled quite well to show the, copy that swordman type where the king is trying to kill the lion with a sword, right? Okay. I've got so many messages coming from so many people. Thank you very much. I cannot answer all of your points and questions, but thank you. I will get to them as soon as I finish. But let's just continue with this talk. So I showed you the lion slayer type where the king is killing a lion, attacking a lion, trampling him with his foot. He's got a sword in his hand, and a goddess seated here, right? And then, of course, we have fake dies also showing these two styles. So one must, when somebody, let me back up. I get mostly two common types of questions. In the last 30 years, if people find out that I am knowledgeable of Gupta Dynasty coins, the two most common questions I get are, sir, iski kya value hai? How much is this coin worth? Number one. And number two, sir, can you help me understand if this is a real coin or a fake coin? So the second question, whether a coin is real or fake, it is the best way to understand whether a coin is real or fake is to try to understand the entire series. And not just the entire series, मतलब ये नहीं कि सिर्फ चंद्रगुप्त II के coins, मतलब पूरा Gupta dynasty का coinage अगर आप समझ जाएं, if you understand all of the coins of the Gupta dynasty, then you will start understanding what is possible and what is not possible, and what makes a coin fake. So what makes a coin fake, and whether it was originally issued by the Gupta king, is something that I have studied for 30 plus years, 35 years. These two coins, of course, I had them in the book. These two coins are, of course, fake coins because this design gives us clues that these are not correct. A lot of times the weight shows us that they are not correct and they're fake. This, of course, is a coin which is struck by Chandragupta II. This was in the Burdwan auction, I think. And I'm only talking about the die design here. I'm not talking about whether this specific coin is fake or not. मतलब ये जो piece की picture लगी है, ये cast है, ये है, वो नहीं. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking कि die design की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. I'm just talking about the die design. All right, for this discussion. So when you look at this coin, this is a known die design. This is a known die design. This coin came up for auction in classical numismatic gallery a few years back, a rare coin. Also, now we had known of this die design from another coin where the goddess was facing to another direction. So the lion was facing to another direction. So known die design. So we can understand that this is a known coin. We can easily say it's whether it's a real or fake. But you see, when you come to these coins, these are fake and modern creations. But the question comes up is the styling is very odd, correct? You look at that, the styling is very odd, right? So I'll bring this here close to you so you can see this together, and you'll see that the styling is very odd, right? See the styling of the body, the styling of the lion, right? Okay. But if we look at odd styles, we will find that in Gupta dynasty, odd style was not unusual because these were hand carved in different regions, right? There were coins that were coming out of the Kannauj area. There were coins that were coming out of the Vidisha area. There are coins coming out of the this Rajasthan area and the let me just show you the red hotspots here, the different hotspots. So all of these blue markers are where gold coins have been found, right? So different craftsmen have different styles that they would use. So coins that generally came and were made in this region were coins that were basically very similar in style, right? So same way, when you look at odd styles, the odd style is important to understand in this context because odd style does not mean odd style necessarily means it's a fake coin. For example, this is a coin found in the Pakistan, Punjab region, Samudragupta. It's a Samudra. It's a style that we have known for years. It's got a Balachandra Dwaj with the Trishul design. It's Raj Danda in his hand. But the style of the figure is a very Afghani kind of style, the Northwest Frontier Province, that style, the king's headdress. You see, the goddess. But this is not a fake and modern creation. This is actually a regional creation, right? Similarly, if you look at this style, which is very similar to the style that was used in the book, the king, and there is a reason I put this style in the front of the cover, because I wanted people to understand that what you think is a Gupta coin design style does not necessarily mean and does not represent all the Gupta coins in that style. Very unusual, right? This is a king and queen type, which matches this, right? Which is very different, of course, as you know, from the normal, putting air quotes in, matlab, some people will say, भाई ये तो बिल्कुल normal style है, ऐसे होना चाहिए Gupta king का style. But that is not, that is mostly we find most common coins like this, but also in this style and also in the styles I was showing you. Let me go back to that slide for a minute. And I wanted to explain this to you, right? So we have very odd styles in Gupta design or odd designs. इसको change कर देते हैं, इसको करते हैं designs, right? Odd designs and styling. Now, by the way, I'm writing a paper on these Lion Slayer coins. So anybody looking at this information, please just hold your thoughts and comments, wait for the paper to be published, and then you will see my additional reasoning behind my discussion here, okay? But I just wanted to let you know that there's a paper in the works, and hopefully you will get it out soon. So the reason I bring this up is, you see, these two styles are very different when compared to the original style, which is like this. Now, keep in mind, this original style was most probably struck at a royal mint. This is a fake copy. Now, why am I spending so much time on it? The reason is, in the book, I published class 2, where the king is attacking the lion with the sword. Right here, you see this? This is another coin right here. And you can see the script here, obverse script, obverse legend, very clear, right? All right, okay. Very clear. The goddess is seated. She's holding a lotus flower. She's got a pasha in her hand. Tamga can be seen. Beautiful sword can be seen, right? So this is a die, meaning one style of the die. This is another style of the die, which is slightly different, right? Then in the last few years, we started coming across another die, which is this one right here. This die, the moment you bring this up to people, the first reaction, people are like, fake coin, it's a fake coin. Everybody becomes an expert and thinks they're fake. When in fact, this, in my opinion, is a second die style of the Chandragupta II swordman type. The weight is correct. When you analyze the gold content, it is correct. And when you look at the, compare it actually to the actual originals that we know from this style, the script matches, the design of the lion matches, the designs in the back match, the design of the king match. So we know that this is made by a different craftsman, and we know that this is most probably not a modern creation. The modern creation is right here on the right. And you can see when you compare this style to this style, there is a big difference. This is a modern creation. This is not. And by the way, I saw some, when I posted this on the Facebook page and, told everybody I'll be talking about it, I got so many comments. Kitne sare log, sab fake hai, sir, fake hai, fake hai, fake hai. Theek hai. Maybe it is fake, but, in my opinion, we need to study this more. And the design, from a design standpoint, to me, it appears quite possibly a second die style of the Chandragupta II lion slayer type, right? To me, this is very, very much a second die. This is not a cast coin. This has been struck with a die. I have been actually sent videos by somebody. I've actually held these pieces in my hand, studied them, looked at them. They are definitely not cast. They are struck from a die. And if the die has been made, it's been a very good looking, very good die. But in my opinion, the legend, the script, the style of the letters, they match well. So to me, this appears to be another die of the king, of the king killing a lion with a sword, the swordsman type. Okay, all right, the lion slayer swordsman type. All right, I won't spend any more time on it, but I wanted to show this to you, that this is what we consider fake and modern creations, and this is, of course, in my opinion, not a modern creation. But there's a paper coming on it. I have some more work being done, so hopefully we can get this sorted out soon. All right, moving along. So after, let's see, actually, you know what we'll do is, before we go into Kumaragupta, let's talk a little bit about some of the, actually, you know what, we'll stop right here. This has been a long talk so far. This is a good place to stop. Questions? Dilip ji just posted, he's saying, let's see, let's look at some of the questions. All right. So there's so many questions. Let's just look at, let me start this, just a minute. I will address some of the questions if I can only find them here. Acha. So, Banerjee, sir, in Bangalore exhibition, you talked about a coin which was catalogued as Chandragupta II, and you found out to be Chandragupta I. Can you please explain once again the reason behind your conclusion? Banerjee ji, you have to look at talk number 2. I talk about that in detail on that talk. It is on my Facebook page. I have discussed that. It's there. It's talk number 2, 1, 2. You'll see talk 1 and 2 both discuss that. Tapanji is asking about the books. Let's see. How do I open up more? Well, the thing is, the books are quite a bit sold out, but as soon as things open up in India, and as far as books open up, the postage and postage service and all that opens up, hopefully we can send some more. I know there's a huge list of people waiting to get more of the books, and we're arranging those to be shipped to Dilip ji, and you can definitely give him the order, and we will get those in your hands as soon as possible. Let's see. I cannot get more of the questions. Let's see. There's cancel. I'm trying to find the how to open up these comments. Chalo. I think this is good. I think everybody should have learned a lot of this thing, these points and my thoughts on the coins. Again, these are informal talks. These are my views on it. My views are exactly that. I have more information in the book. I would love to continue to share these with you. In the coming next talk, we will discuss the base metal coins. We'll start with the coins of Kumaragupta, but before we go to the coins of Kumaragupta, we'll start with the base metal coins of Chandragupta II, showing the different coins which show his start of the conquest, including silver coins which have dates on them. They're very beautiful coins, and the silver and the lead coins actually have dates stamped on them, which from a historical perspective is very important for us to understand when these kings were ruling, and when they issued certain coin types, it was able to help us understand what they were doing at that time in those years. So very, very important coins. I'll cover those in the next talk. I think this has been a long enough talk, so I will take your leave now. I am not being able to look at all the questions. I'm so sorry, running out of time, but we'll try to pick them up in the next talk. If you give me your comments and questions here, I will be glad to answer those questions once again. Thank you. I hope you're all staying safe. We are staying as safe and secluded as we can in the United States here. It is very difficult times with the virus, but I wish you all good health and have a good night.